Hello and welcome to the Leadership Edge. I'm your host, Ted Gorski. The Leadership Edge focuses on those areas that leaders are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I'm your host, Ted Gorski, and what we do is we focus on some strategies and techniques that will help you become a better leader on your day-to-day activities. Now, if you've been following the show, like I know you have, last show we were talking about this whole concept of trailblazing leaders. You know, those leaders that cut through and are pioneers in their field. And we talked about those characteristics that make those leaders trailblazers. And what we're going to do in this show is we're bringing it up a notch. And what we have today is as a guest who I consider to be a trailblazing leader in the area. And then today I'd like to introduce Tom Boucher, who is the CEO of Great New Hampshire Restaurants, which consist of Cactus Jack's, T-Bones, as well as Copper Door. And we're going to talk about what makes him a trailblazing leader. So Tom, welcome to the Leadership Edge.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I was looking at your bio as we were preparing for the show, and I saw that, you know, in your career, you've kind of had numerous jobs in the restaurant business. So tell me a little bit about your background in those jobs and how it prepared you to do what you're doing today.
Well, it's interesting because my history is not unlike a lot of people in the restaurant business.
Okay.
So you either start out with a lot of money and open a restaurant, or you start out usually working from the very entry-level positions like being a cook or being a server.
Okay.
So in my case, I graduated from Merrimack College with a degree in, of all things, chemistry.
Chemistry, and you're in the restaurant business.
Right, and then I actually had a full scholarship to get my master's at Villanova. I went there for 6 months, and then I realized that I wasn't meant to be in a white lab coat. I wanted to be on my feet, thinking, being with people, and so I went back home and just started waiting tables to figure out what I wanted to do. So I waited tables at Hudson T-Bones.
Okay.
That was in 1987. That was the second T-Bones location.
Okay.
T-Bones was founded by three original partners. As the company grew, I grew into management. I started being a kitchen manager, then I became a dining room manager. I grew into the marketing department. And I just kept learning different parts of the company and kept growing. And then eventually in 2000, I became director of dining room operations for all the restaurants. At that time, we had 4 locations.
Okay.
And then in 2004, became CEO. And in 2007, one of the founding partners, Mark, and I bought out the other 2 founders. And then since then, we've opened Laconia, T-Bones, and Cactus Jack's, and Copper Door. So I've kind of, you know, moved my way up through the ranks and really did pretty much every single job that there is in our company.
Yeah, it sounds it. Now, how did that experience help you to become the leader that you are today?
You know, probably the thing that I think helps me the most is the fact that I have a complete appreciation for what it is to work on a Saturday night on saute station, you know, cooking, you know, chicken parms and chicken marsalas, and it's really hard, really challenging your mind when you're working, believe it or not, because it's really fast paced. You have to think on your feet, and you gotta work hard. So I have a complete appreciation for every single employee's position because I've done them.
Sure.
So, you know, I think that's helped me a lot.
So that understanding what they do really gives you, like you said, an appreciation to understand what you can do to help them to be even better.
And especially it's enabled me and my leadership team to really listen to the employees when they have a situation that they want corrected or something improved. We listen to them because we've been in those positions before, speaking to our leaders at the time.
Sure.
And we wanted that as employees, so we try to do that.
So it sounds like you had a passion for the restaurant business. What spurred that passion for you?
You know, it's interesting because if you talk to people out in the business community, everybody that I talk to that are in different industries, they all say, "Oh, the restaurant business, it's so hard, it's so tough," and it is. You know, quite frankly, it's a very hard business in the fact that there's low margins. You know, a lot of people don't realize that the margins are low, so you have to have a passion for it. You know,
Sure.
you really do, because you have to have a passion for working long hours, nights, holidays, weekends, And it's the passion and the thrill for me is when, like when we're just talking with the producers.
Yeah, producer Bill.
Yeah. Just hearing them talk about the things that they love. I mean, it really gives me such pride to hear when people speak about their restaurants in a positive way.
Now, don't worry about producer Bill. He's going to hit you up for a free meal. Don't worry about it.
That's fine.
He won't. We'll take care of him. So what drives you? I mean, you deal with these restaurants. We're going to talk a little bit about opening up Copper Door in a minute, but what drives you to your success, do you think, today?
Probably the thing that really drives me the most is I love seeing employees succeed. It's such a pleasure to see, maybe because that's the path that I went, an entry-level employee grow into different positions. For example, Chef Nicole, as we affectionately call her.
Yes.
She's also our director of marketing. She graduated from Southern New Hampshire University with a culinary degree, started working at Laconia T-Bones as an entry-level server, hoping to become a manager. And she quickly grew into management. And from there, we developed her into being our corporate chef. And now she's our corporate chef and director of marketing, and she's 31 years old. So it's just, I love seeing that type of success from young people coming in at an entry-level position. It just really gives me a lot of pride to see that we're providing really great careers for people. We have 550 employees, and every single one of them has an opportunity to grow with our company as we continue to grow.
And because you've taken that active interest in that, how do you see your employees responding to you? One
of the really great things is that we have tremendous longevity in our employees. A lot of our general managers have been with us between 25 and 30 years.
Wow.
So in any industry, that's a long career.
Yeah.
Never mind the restaurant business. So they've really become mentors to that next generation, the millennials coming in, seeing that, wow, I could have a lifelong career here. So I think it's the example setting that they give to that next generation has really created a sense of we're a company that people want to come work for. And a lot of times people will say, how do you find such good people? And the truth is, these good people find us. And that's been a gift that we have, that we treat our employees really well, and they want to come work for us. And we embrace that.
That's great. Now, you mentioned the employees reach out to you. When an employee or when a prospective employee comes to, wants to join one of your organizations, what does, your restaurants look for in that person? What's important when you're interviewing them that you're looking for?
It's actually pretty simple. We just want them to be good people right here. That's the very first thing we look for. If they're a good person, and it's hard to sometimes extract that in an interview. You don't necessarily always, get that from an interview. But for the most part, between the first interview, the second interview, and a reference call, we're just looking for good people, because we can teach them anything that we need to teach them in the restaurant business, because we have great trainers, we have great manuals, we have great systems, great operations.
Yeah.
So if they're a good person, we can absolutely teach them to be a server, a cook, a bartender, a host, a busboy, whatever it might be. And so that's truly what we look for.
It's interesting you said that. I just had a coaching session this morning, and I was talking to a leader who was having a challenge. And it sounds like what you're saying is you hire for attitude, looking for the right mindset. And that's the conversation I had with this leader, was this whole concept of they were having issues with hiring the right people because they were looking at their skill set. They had to match it versus looking at their aptitude, which was, like you said, their attitude, hiring the right people there.
That's exactly it. And one of the things that we're actually working on this year is, I think I pointed this out before, but this is a book that we wrote last year to celebrate our 30th anniversary.
Awesome.
And what it talks about in this book is, it's called Sitting at the Table of Success. And what it talks about is the history of our company, but it goes through the different areas of our culture that we have defined now in this book. It's always been kind of talked about and kind of hovering above in people's minds, but we actually put it down on paper in this book. And a lot of these different attributes of our different culture that we have in our company, we look for those attributes in hiring employees. So whether it's being one of the attributes is courage, one of them is trusting and entrusting. One of them is executing greatness. So there's these different areas that we look for, and we're going to start folding that into how we interview people. We're going to fold that into how we train people. So that's kind of a little inside thing that we do that we're really working on.
So a little inside baseball, as they say. How do you communicate those? I mean, those sound awesome, and they sound fabulous. How do you, as the CEO, kind of pump those down to make sure everyone understands those?
Well, that is part of the challenge, is that, you know, obviously our leadership team gets it, our general managers get it because they grew up with it, but as a new employee comes in, it is a challenge for them to understand those attributes. Hopefully it starts to permeate via our training process and just the everyday engagement from our managers. So that's really the only way that we can deliver that right now. Plus, they all get a copy of the book.
Yeah.
There is, you know,
a signed copy, I hope.
it is embedded everywhere in our training. So
Sure.
that's really how they're going to get it, you know, firsthand.
Now, you mentioned earlier in the show that, you know, the restaurant business is, you know, very competitive. What brought you to that point? I mean, you had, you know, Cactus Jacks, you had T-Bones. What got you to that point of saying, you know what, I'll open up another restaurant, knowing that there's all these competitive kind of factors going around? What got you to that point to say, you know, this is a great restaurant to do, and we're going to open up a third one?
Yeah, so the history on Copper Door was the fact that, you know, there's no secret. C.R. Sparks, when they closed, there was a void in the market.
Yeah.
You know, people love C.R. Sparks. I loved C.R. Sparks. You know, it was a really great restaurant. And in that level of dining, upper casual, we call it. It's not fine dining. It's not casual dining. We call it upper casual. There was a void in that market space. So we started planning this concept in 2010. And the process was, we did a ton of research. My wife and I actually traveled a lot, extensively, because I'm on the National Restaurant Association Board of Directors.
Yes.
So we get to go to the different, you know, some of the bigger cities around the country and experience a lot of incredible restaurants. So we took a lot of notes, you know, took a lot of pictures, and just started to create this concept, knowing that we were going to do something at some point. And then this location you can't get
awesome.
You can't get a better location than, you know, it's literally 101. If you're not from the Bedford area, it's a highway, you know, that happens to end at a traffic light.
Yeah.
So it's the only east-west highway in the state, and you just can't get a better location than where it is. So it was a natural, the fact that there was a void in the marketplace. We had the concept, and then we just needed the location. So.
And it was strategic to put it near a liquor store. Tremendous.
Well, you know, it actually, you know, the interesting part of that was originally supposed to be a CVS.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we lucked out with the liquor store being right there.
Well, that was tremendous. When you look at your leadership style, and you look at, you know, how successful your restaurants are, let's talk about you as a leader. I mean, what do you see as kind of your guiding principles that's made you successful as a leader?
Well, can I just give one answer, or you want several?
Yeah, I'll give you as long as you want. How's that, Tom?
You know, I was kind of running through my mind with this, you know, preparing to sit down, and there's a few things that I think has helped me attract people that want to work for us, especially at the senior level. And part of it is I try to treat them as teammates. You know, I really don't treat them like I'm their boss.
Yeah.
We truly have a leadership team. There's 6 of us, and one of the things that whether it was strategic or it just kind of happened naturally for me, I tried to surround myself with people that don't necessarily think the same way that I do. I've read enough that you don't want people to work for you that just agree with you all the time, and so I've allowed that door to be open for them to disagree with me, for them to make suggestions, and I've actually, you know, taken those suggestions, taken action on them, not just, you know, given lip service to say, yeah, you can give me suggestions and not do anything with it. So I think that's one of the attributes that I've used to enhance my leadership style, if you will. The second thing that's happened over the years is, you know, if I make a mistake or I'm wrong, I just say it. I own it. I don't try and push it off. And that has built credibility amongst our team so that when one of them makes a mistake, they own it and they just move on. You know, we're all going to make mistakes, and it's going to happen. So that's part of our culture and our subculture of our leadership team, that we communicate, we're open, we're transparent, and that's probably another attribute, is that I'm very transparent about how we operate, all the way down to financials. You know, our GMs see, the only thing that they don't necessarily see is perhaps the leadership team's compensation.
Okay.
You know, that's personal.
Yeah.
But the rest, they see everything. They see all of our profit and loss statements, and we're very transparent about it, so that they see that we're operating in a way that's an open door. So that's, you know, those are just three things that, off the top of my head, that I think are unique for us.
So it sounds like you are able to check your ego at the door, and really work with your team, and really discuss issues. And if you're wrong, you're wrong, and you just kind of move on. So that seems like an important piece here.
Yeah.
If I'm hearing you.
And one of the things that we just did recently, we have a business coach that works with us. She works with our leadership team. Pretty much quarterly, we'll meet with her and talk. But one of the things that we did last year with her was we did a CQ test, which is it's called a cultural intelligence test.
Okay.
So it's not an IQ test. It's more about how you are as a leader, and how you operate amongst your team members. So it was a really, really interesting test. And what it did was it puts you into different categories. So so each of us, after we took the test, you're either combination of the following things. You're either high heart, meaning you want to embrace employees and take care of people, and that aspect. You're high head, which means you're a visionary, or you're high hands, which means you're a task doer, or a combination of the three. And what was interesting is that we had an incredibly balanced team of the six of us. None of us were high in any one area, with the exception of myself. I was very high head, which was the visionary piece.
Yes.
And our chief hospitality officer was very high heart, which we want him to be that.
Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
So so we just had. It was really nice to see that we had a good balance on our leadership team, and it wasn't that we were all high hands, because you don't want that. You don't want everybody being tasked, and then you don't want anybody kind of leading the troops. So it was, and again, I don't know if it was by design, but it just happened that way, that I've got that really good balance of our team.
Which is important when you're in an organization. Now, as the leadership edge, you know, one of the things we want to talk about here, and one of the things we've covered, and I think you've covered a lot today, is we'd like to give our viewership some advice. So you know, in terms of your journey and kind of where you're at, what piece of advice would you give, you know, leaders and new leaders out there that can help them be, you know, just as successful as you?
I think you want to lead by being genuine, and not trying to be something that you're not. So just if you have a strength in a certain area, use that as a way to lead. Don't try and lead by looking at someone else saying, I want to be like him, so I'm going to lead like that. It doesn't work. I've seen it in some of our managers who try to be like their boss, and it's not. It doesn't come from here. Then you're trying to emulate something that you're not.
Yeah.
So I think you should lead the way that you think you should lead, which is kind of a very arbitrary way to say it, but there's no one specific way to lead. There's many different types of leadership skills that people are successful with. Some people are better at leading, as we just talked about, with their heart. Some are better at leading with their vision or whatever it might be. But for me, it's been more about really thinking big picture, really taking a step back and looking at things from a 30,000-foot level. I literally just had my meeting with my business coach yesterday.
Yeah.
We reviewed my 2015 goals, and I actually came up with an idea that I looked back at my 2012 goals. I just happened to stumble on them, and it was fascinating to see of the, I don't know how many were on that list, but I had completed about 90% of them. They all didn't happen in 2012.
Right.
They happened in 12, 13, 14. But so I said to her, I said, you know what, I'm going to give you the goals for this year, but I'm also going to give a 3-year look out, because a year goes by like that, and you don't necessarily achieve all that you can get done in 1 year. So I did the 1 year, but then I also said, you know what, I may not get to these this year, but it's got to be on my plan for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was something that I just stumbled on, and we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to look back 3 years from now and see how I did.
Now, the other thing that I wanted to ask you is, and kind of winding down on time here, is complacency. Complacency can kill.
Mm.
So, as a leader, I mean, what do you do to help you avoid being complacent, you know, for yourself, and what do you do for the organization to make sure they don't stay complacent?
Mm-hmm. For myself, I put myself in uncomfortable situations, like this interview. Okay.
Hey, wait, I'm a nice guy.
No, but you know, this isn't something that I normally would do. This is not part of running restaurants.
Yeah.
But it puts me in a place to start thinking about what I do, and so this has driven me to think deeply about my leadership style. Why am I successful? Why is our company where they are? I may have thought about that if I didn't do this interview.
Yeah.
So I put myself in areas that I don't necessarily always see myself being in that would help improve the restaurants. For instance, I'm on several boards that have nothing to do with the restaurant industry, but it exposes me to people and experiences that I don't necessarily wouldn't be exposed to. I'm on the Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation board. So there's doctors on this board, there's academics on this board, and they're fascinating people that I learn from that help me keep me motivated to bring back ideas to our company that I can use. They might be in a different industry, but I can use them within our company. So complacency, it absolutely happens, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened in my career, because it certainly has, but those are the types of things that I do to keep me invigorated about improving our business, or keeping it, you know, at the standard that it is. For employees, it depends on which level of employee you're talking about, but I do the same thing. I fully encourage them to go out and experience new things and different things, and don't just get stuck trying to learn about your specific job. Try and learn more about things that are adjacent or you know, enhancing your job, and not just specifically about how to be a dining room manager. Learn how to be a manager. That way you can use that in any career. You know, if you know managing in a restaurant it's 90% how do you manage the people, and not necessarily a lot of times new managers will think, well, it's about the bookwork, or it's about, you know, the specs, or the whatever system or control we might have, because they have to learn all that, and it may be challenging for them to muddle through an Excel sheet or something. Like I said, that is like 10% of your job. 90% is how to manage people, and it's a skill set that you can use the rest of your life, no matter where you are.
And that's probably a good point to kind of end it here. Tom, I want to thank you for being here on the Leadership Edge. I mean, leadership is all about people, and that's a great message, and I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with our viewership.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Now you can see why I selected Tom as one of the first people in terms of our Trailblazing Leadership series. He lives the 3 tenements that we talked about. The whole concept of, number one, really looking at themselves, walking the talk and talking the walk. And as Tom shared with us today, he showed some examples on how he does that. We talked about the concept of critical thinking and assessing and asking the right questions. And lastly, we looked at the whole concept of engaging allurement, being able to bring people with you through the journey. So you can see why I asked Tom to be here today, and I'm glad, Tom, that you're able to share your experiences with us. So I appreciate you watching today's show. We'll certainly have more leaders like Tom on the show to really show you the whole concept of Trailblazing Leadership series. So again, I'm your host, Ted Gorski. If there's anything we can do with your leadership needs, please check us out on our website at www.getYourEdge.com. Thank you for watching today's show. See you next time.